It was okay. It wasn't a complete disaster, but it was very close to a complete disaster.
All right. Why don't I start with the haftarah and have somebody else read the Torah portion?
All
Okay.
right. Sounds
All right.
great.
Okay. All right. This is the word the Eternal spoke to Jeremiah, the prophet, concerning an attack on Egypt by I never can say this, Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon. I don't know why I have trouble with that one. Declare it in Egypt, announce it in Migdol, and in Memphis and Tapenes, say, take your stand, be ready, for the sword is devouring all around you. Why did Shafli, your champion, did not stand fast, for the Eternal has driven him away? He made many stumble, one falling over the next, and they said, quick, let us go back to our people, to the land where we were born, away from the flashing sword. Okay. Flashing sword. Why did I lose myself? Flashing sword.
Number 17.
Oh, thank you. I'm sorry. Okay, yeah. There they call Pharaoh, king of Egypt, big noise, who has missed his chance. As I live, says the Eternal One, the sovereign God of heaven hosts, as Tabor is among the mountains, as Carmel is by the sea. So shall Nebuchadnezzar come, pack your bags for exile. Fear Egypt, dwelling so safe and sound. Memphis will become a desolation, an uninhabited ruin. Egypt is a lovely heifer, upon whom a gadfly from the north has descended. Even the mercenaries in her midst were like fatted calves, for they too have turned and fled as one, making no stand. For their day of disaster had come upon them, their hour of doom. Hear her hiss like a snake when the Babylonians come in force to attack her with axes like wood choppers. Says the Eternal One, they cut down her forest, impenetrable through it is, for they outnumbered the locusts and cannot be counted. Fear Egypt shall be put to shame, given over to northern people. The God of heaven's hosts, the God of Israel, says, behold, I punish Ammon, God of the town of No, and Pharaoh and Egypt, her gods and her kings, Pharaoh and all who trust in him. I am handing them over to those who seek their lives, to Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, and his army. But later on it will be inhabited as in days of old. This is the word of the Eternal One. But you have no fear, Jacob, my servant. Do not despair, O Israel, for behold, I will save you from that distant place, and your offspring from the land of your captivity. Jacob shall return and be quiet and tranquil, and none shall make you afraid. Have no fear, O Jacob, my servant, for I am with you, says the Eternal One. I will bring to an end all the nations to whose lands I have driven you, but I will not make an end of you. Though I do not let you go unpunished, I shall chastise you justly. Is that the end?
Amen.
That's it.
Who doesn't like that? A good chastisement.
But he doesn't say what he's going to chastise.
I know. Can I just add a couple of things about Jeremiah? Jeremiah was, he had probably the most difficult job of all the prophets, because he had to tell the king of Israel at the time that God was saying to him to give up the throne and go into exile into Babylon. It's an amazing story if you read the whole thing. And Jeremiah even warned the king, if you don't do this, if you don't go into exile in Babylon, terrible things are going to happen. And so what does the king do? He doesn't listen to Jeremiah, and terrible things happen. So that's all I can tell you about it. It's very bad, but it's really sad, because I'm just, as we're reading that today, it's like, wow, it was just tough, I mean, just a tough time all around.
They were invaded by the Babylonians. Hi. They were invaded by the Babylonians, and then the temple was destroyed.
Yes,
right?
yes, it was
Yep,
really bad. It was
that's
really bad.
right.
And the kingdom
And
of Israel was destroyed.
that's right. That's exactly
A
right.
lot of destruction in those days.
That's right. Monique, do you want to try? Do you want to go for the Torah? Now
Sure,
we're at
sure.
Exodus 10, so we're right in the middle of the plagues. Ooh.
Ugh.
Then the Eternal One said to Moses, go to Pharaoh, for I have hardened his heart and the hearts of his courtiers, in order that I may display these signs among them, and that you may recount in the hearing of your children and of your children's children how I made a mockery of the Egyptians, and how I displayed my signs among them, in order that you may know that I am the Eternal. So Moses and Aaron went to Pharaoh and said to him, thus says the Eternal, the God of the Hebrews, how long will you refuse to humble yourself before me? Let my people go, that they may worship me. For if you refuse to let my people go tomorrow, I will bring locusts on your territory. They shall cover the surface of the land, so that no one shall be able to see the land. They shall devour the surviving remnant that was left to you after the hail, and they shall eat away all your trees that grow in the field. Moreover, they shall fill your palaces and the house of all your courtiers and of all the Egyptians, something that neither your father nor father's father have seen from the day they appeared on earth to this day. With that, he turned and left Pharaoh's presence. Pharaoh's courtiers said to him, how long shall this one be a snare to us? Let a delegation go to worship the Eternal their God. Are you not yet aware that Egypt is lost? So Moses and Aaron were brought back to the Pharaoh, and he said to them, go worship the Eternal your God. Who are the ones to go? Moses replied, we will all go. Regardless of social station, we will go with our sons and daughters, our flocks and herds, for we must observe the Eternal's festival. But he said to them, the Eternal will be with you, the same as I mean to let your dependents go with you. Clearly you are bent on mischief. No, the gentlemen, you go and worship the Eternal, since this is what you want. And they were expelled from Pharaoh's presence. Then the Eternal One said to Moses, hold out your arm over the land of Egypt for the locusts, that they may come upon the land of Egypt and eat up all the grasses in the land, whatever the hail has left. So Moses held out his rod over the land of Egypt, and the Eternal drove an east wind over the land all that day and night. And when morning came, the east wind had brought the locusts. Locusts invaded all the land of Egypt and settled within all the territory of Egypt in a thick mass. Never before had there been so many, nor will there ever be so many again. They hid all the land from you, and the land was darkened. And they ate up all the grasses of the field and all the fruit of the trees which the hail had left, so that nothing green was left of tree or grass of the field in all the land of Egypt. Pharaoh hurriedly summoned Moses and Aaron and said, I stand guilty before the Eternal your God and before you. Forgive my offense just this once, and plead with the Eternal your God that his death but be removed from me. So he left Pharaoh's presence and pleaded with the Eternal. The Eternal caused a shift to a very strong west wind, which lit the locusts and hurled them into the Sea of Reeds. Not a single locust remained in all the territory of Egypt, but the Eternal stiffened Pharaoh's heart, and he would not let the Israelites go. Then the Eternal One said to Moses, hold out your arm towards the sky, that there may be darkness upon the land of Egypt, a darkness that can be touched. Moses held out his arm towards the sky, and thick darkness descended upon all the land of Egypt for 3 days. People could not see one another, and for 3 days no one could move about. But all the Israelites enjoyed light in their dwellings. Pharaoh then summoned Moses and said, go worship the Eternal. Only your flocks and your herds should be left behind. Even your dependents may go with you. But Moses said, you yourself must provide us with sacrifices and burnt offerings to offer up to the Eternal our God. Our own livestock too shall go along with us. Not a hoof shall remain behind. For we must select from it for the worship of the Eternal our God, and we shall not know with what we are to worship the Eternal until we arrive there. But the Eternal stiffened Pharaoh's heart, and he would not agree to let them go. Pharaoh said to him, begone from me. Take care not to see me again, for the moment you look upon my face, you shall die. And Moses replied, you have spoken rightly. I shall not see your face again. And the Eternal One said to Moses, I will bring but one more plague upon Pharaoh and upon Egypt, After that, he shall let you go from here. Indeed, when he lets you go, he will drive you out of here, one and all. Tell the people to borrow each man from his neighbor and each woman from hers objects of silver and gold. The Eternal disposed the Egyptians favorably towards the people. Moreover, God's envoy Moses was so much esteemed in the land of Egypt, among Pharaoh's courtiers and among the people. Moses said, Thus says the Eternal, towards midnight I will go forth among the Egyptians, and every male firstborn in the land of Egypt shall die, from the firstborn of Pharaoh who sits on his throne to the firstborn of the slave girl who was behind the millstones, and all the firstborn of the cattle. And there shall be a loud cry in all the land of Egypt, such as never has been, nor ever will be again. But not a dog shall snarl at any of the Israelites, at human or beast, in order that you may know that the Eternal makes a distinction between Egypt and Israel. Then all the courtiers of yours shall come down to me and bow low to me, saying, Depart you and all the people who follow you. After that I will depart. And he left Pharaoh's presence in hot anger. Now the Eternal had said to Moses, Pharaoh will not heed you, in order that my marvels may be multiplied in the land of Egypt. Moses and Aaron had performed all these marvels before Pharaoh, but the Eternal had stiffened the heart of Pharaoh, so that he would not let the Israelites go from his land.
Can we stop here for a second?
I want to mention something here. It's very interesting that God was actually stiffening Pharaoh's heart, and he didn't have to go through, my personal opinion is, he didn't have to go through all these 10 plagues before he got to the firstborn. He could have just gone to the firstborn and that was it. It's interesting that we had to go through this whole 10 plagues to get until finally, Pharaoh it says, okay, look at you now. You're going to kill my firstborn. I'm going to let you guys go. But let's face it, he could have done that in the beginning, right?
Yeah, but the lesson had to be a lesson that had to be taught, like, it had to be a lesson of lessons. It had to lead up to it.
I know. Well, that's it. It was God that's right. It was God that was stiffening Pharaoh's heart.
Yeah, it was
Pharaoh.
God showing God's power to the Egyptians and to the Israelites.
Israelites, yeah, right.
For all time, really.
No, I mean, I just think it's interesting that,
And I think didn't Dr. Michael talk about how each one of these plagues represented a different Egyptian god? Isn't that part of it? Like God was actually picking out
scientifically.
Oh, I see. You mean people believed in all these? But what about the locusts? And nobody believed that locusts were a god.
I don't know it that well enough to say, but I do think frogs. There was something about frogs being a god, and
and I can understand darkness and light. I can even understand like snakes and stuff. But I just didn't think of locusts as a god. But I don't know, maybe.
But I think Gary brings up a good point because didn't Moses have a hard time convincing Israel at first? Like, I'm going to help you.
And some of the like a god, like light and everything. So God had to show, supreme power over all of those gods that Egyptians worshipped, but also had to convince the Israelites.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Even some of the Israelites didn't want to go, like Edward G. Robinson.
That's right. And also, notice right here on this page how different of a person Moses is right now. Because before, when God told him, you're going to be the prophet, you're going to be like God to Pharaoh. And Moses said, no, you got the wrong guy. I'm slow of speech. I'm slow of tongue. And now, look at right there from number 4, Moses said, and he is directing this right at Pharaoh. Can you imagine that he's telling Pharaoh, the most powerful person on the planet at that time, thus says the Eternal, my God, like toward midnight, I will go forth and kill all the firstborn males. He's telling this to Pharaoh, what's going to happen. So now we see Moses completely confident after all these plagues, right? So again, it might have to do with what you were asking, like why do we have to go through all these different steps? And Moses at this point is so confident. He's going right up to the face of Pharaoh and he's saying, yes, first off, we're not going to see face to face again. That's true. And Pharaoh's threatening his life, and he could kill him. He could have killed him right now. But
Right.
here's Moses saying, "This is what God is telling you, and this is what He's going to do." And so, to me, that's really amazing right now. I'm like, I mean, this is like, wow, what a difference we have. What a guy we have now of Moses, just like really giving it to Pharaoh and really pronouncing this in a very confident way that he would have never had on the first plague. He wouldn't have. Now he's got all the confidence in the world, and he is just like, and that's the biggest thing I think about being a prophet is you have to have confidence, because people are going to think you're crazy if you're not right. And so right now you see amazing confidence in Moses about God's. He's so faithful now to God. Like now I understand God more completely than I ever
When you look at it that way too, it's almost like the plagues were to also convince Moses to give him more, to
Absolutely.
to show the children of Israel, to give Moses and to show him more, and in Pharaoh, in the
What I don't
Egyptians.
understand is why Pharaoh didn't kill Moses and Aaron.
That's a good question.
Yeah.
I think he might have. I think Pharaoh. It's interesting because, like Ruthie points out that God is messing with Pharaoh on a deeper level, right? He's stiffening his heart because it's if you're going to be Pharaoh, you're definitely going to be a number one. You're almost like the king mobster, right? You got to be a tough guy, and so I'm sure there might have been something. I'm just I don't know. If I were Pharaoh, I'd be kind of freaking out a little bit about all this stuff. Like, what's going on here? It's raining frogs. We're getting covered in darkness. I mean, he could have killed them any time, right? But I think he might
There's
have
a
also been.
negotiation going on. I don't think, even in rulers today, if there's a negotiation going on, they're not going to kill you, obviously. You know what I'm saying? There's going to be a negotiation before they would kill you. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think.
But the other side of it too is, I think the plagues, like once the plague started, Pharaoh didn't kill them because he felt that Moses and Aaron were the only ones that could ask God to stop.
Well
Oh, I
said.
never
Yeah.
even thought of
Good
that.
point,
If he
Gary.
killed,
That's a
if he
great
killed
point.
them, yeah, if he killed them, then
Yeah, that's
you
a
know
very good point. I didn't
this
even
stuff
think
would
of
start
that.
and then Pharaoh would say, "Okay, okay, all right, you were right. Your God is the all. I was wrong. Okay,
Yeah, yeah, I hear you.
please tell God to stop." And then it stops, and then Pharaoh says, screw him."
That's a very good point, Gary.
Yeah, it's a very good point. All right.
Do you want to
Oh,
continue,
we're not
Monique?
ended yet. I'm sorry.
Sure,
No.
sure. The Eternal One said to Moses and Aaron in the land of Egypt, "This month shall mark for you the beginning of the months. It shall be the first of the months of the year for you. Speak to the community leadership of Israel and say that on the 10th of this month, each of them shall take a lamb to a family, a lamb to a household. But if the household is too small for a lamb, let it share one with a neighbor who dwells nearby in proportion to the number of persons. You shall contribute for the lamb according to what each household will eat. Your land shall be without blemish, a yearling male. You may take it from the sheep or from the goats. You shall keep watch over it until the 14th day of this month, and all the assembled congregation of the Israelites shall slaughter it at twilight. They shall take some of the blood and put it on the two doorposts, and the lintel of the houses in which they are to eat it. They shall eat the flesh that same night. They shall eat it roasted over the fire with unleavened bread and with bitter herbs. Do not eat any of it raw or cooked in any way with water, but roasted, head, legs, and entrails over the fire. You shall not leave any of it over until morning. If any of it is left until morning, you shall burn it. This is how you shall eat it: your loins girded, your sandals on your feet, and your staff in your hand, and you shall eat it hurriedly. It is a Passover offering to the Eternal. For that night I will go through the land of Egypt and strike down every male firstborn in the land of Egypt, both human and beast. And I will mete out punishments to all the gods of Egypt, I the Eternal. And the blood in the houses where you are staying shall be a sign for you. When I see the blood, I will pass over you, so that no plague will destroy you when I strike the land of Egypt. This day shall be to you one of remembrance. You shall celebrate it as a festival to the Eternal throughout the ages. You shall celebrate it as an institution for all time. 7 days you shall eat unleavened bread. On the very first day you shall remove leaven from your houses. Whoever eats leavened bread from the first day to the seventh day, that person shall be cut off from Israel. You shall celebrate a sacred occasion on the first day and a sacred occasion on the seventh day. No work at all shall be done on them. Only what every person is to eat, that alone may be prepared for you. You shall observe the feast of unleavened bread, for on this very day I brought you ranks out of the land of Egypt. You shall observe this day throughout the ages as an institution for all time. In the first month, from the 14th day of the month at evening, you shall eat unleavened bread until the 21st day of the month at evening. No leaven shall be found in your houses for 7 days. For whoever eats what is leavened, that person, whether a stranger or a citizen of the country, shall be cut off from the community of Israel. You shall eat nothing leavened. In all your settlements you shall eat unleavened bread. Moses then summoned all the elders of Israel and said to them, go pick out lambs for your families and slaughter the Passover offering. Take a bunch of hyssop, dip it in the blood that is left in the basin, and apply some of the blood that is in the basin to the lintel and to the 2 doorposts. None of you shall go outside the door of your house until morning. For the Eternal, when going through to smite the Egyptians, will see the blood of the lintel and the 2 doorposts, and the Eternal will pass over the door and not let the destroyer enter and smite your home. You shall observe this as an institution for all time for you and your descendants. And when you enter the land that the Eternal will give you as promised, you shall observe this rite. And when your children ask you, what do you mean by this rite? You shall say, it is a Passover sacrifice to the Eternal, who passed over the houses of the Israelites in Egypt when smiting the Egyptians, but saved our houses. I think I'm going to stop.
Okay, you did a lot. So
Wow.
thank you. You did a lot. Thank you very much.
Oh, you're welcome.
Yeah, it was great. What is everyone thinking about Passover now? It's like
Yeah,
with questions and everything.
Yeah.
This is
Oh,
wonderful.
we do this every year, and you know something. When I read the Torah portion, it makes Passover so much even more real to me. It's like, I knew about all these things and everything, but when I study it now, it makes it even more powerful to me. It really does. This is such a powerful Pasha. I mean, it just confirms everything we talk about on Pesach. It's just pretty amazing.
And that's the thing, like as a Christian, I read this and I really feel somehow that I feel that as Christians we're kind of missing out on this festival. I mean, we somehow go toward Easter. Easter and Passover are kind of similar because we think of Jesus as the, what do we call it? The Paschal Lamb. The Lamb of God is one of the ways we talk about Jesus, and as that sacrifice. But I think it would be good for Christians to really take this into account, because I don't see Christianity as, changing any. It shouldn't really be changing anything of the old ways. That's my own.
That was the thing that I never understood about Christianity, that I can understand whatever happened with Jesus and they accepted Jesus, but that all the commandments didn't change just because of what happened with Jesus. And that I think a lot of things changed, not because of Jesus, but because of Paul, I hear, and there was somebody else. And they made assumptions that has nothing to do with the commandments, or the mitzvahs. So that's what I've always had problems understanding, how Christians don't put it all together.
Me too. I'm on your side, Ruthie.
Yeah,
you're right.
Passover,
Yeah.
Passover is supposed to be like one of the most widely celebrated holiday, or if not the, like, I don't know which rabbi said it, or maybe it's a holiday that the Jewish holiday that
we invite a lot of Christians to,
of all Jewish holidays, it's the one that non-Jews would celebrate the most,
right,
along
right.
with Jews, like, because it's still a celebration of freedom and
Mm.
freedom from bondage, and
It's a great holiday, and it
Michael,
But you
can I,
see,
questions.
yeah, go ahead.
Michael, can I ask you a question?
Yes, absolutely.
Are you both Christian and Jewish?
If there's such a thing, I would consider myself that. Yes, but I know I was raised Catholic, so I can't say that I was Jewish and then I kind of thought Jesus was Messiah. I was raised Catholic, so I was always brought up to believe Jesus was the Messiah. And one of the things about Christianity is that we believe Jesus is going to come again. So, which is kind of weird. It's like one of these weird things because I know that the Jewish people are still waiting for Messiah. So, as the Jewish people wait for Messiah, Christians are also waiting for Messiah as well, as we can say, and we might have different names for Messiah, which I think is fine. I mean, God is diverse. That's all I know is God is really diverse. So, to your point, I feel so connected, like coming to this temple to, Gary and I just, we become really good friends through just our worship of God. And I think that's the most important thing. God first. And then, Messiah is, hey, wherever you find Messiah, I think there's many, I'm kind of like of the belief that there's many different, I don't know, maybe people or personalities that could be Messiah.
Martin Luther King Jr.
Yeah, I mean, any, like, or Mahatma Gandhi, right? A Hindu, why not?
My husband said that it doesn't even, a Messiah doesn't have to even be a person. It could have been an animal that comes back. I mean, yeah, it's everybody thinks of Messiah as a person, but it could be something other than a person.
And I think the biggest thing is that we're all waiting, and Christians wait too.
Right, right.
And we hope to fix the world enough so that Messiah returns. And I think that's one thing we have in common.
Right.
And I think Chabad doesn't Chabad think of the Rebbe as a sort of Messiah? I don't know.
No.
Okay.
No, the Rebbe's just a learned teacher to, but not nothing to do with the Messiah. No.
Okay. My bad.
Thank you, Michael.
Yep,
Absolutely. You can ask me any question. And Dr. Ed's here again. You look much more rested than the last time we saw you, Dr. Ed.
I had to run down the Cape. I'm so sorry I'm late. My super duper brand new heating system went down.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that.
Sorry to hear. Yeah. That's
So they're coming tomorrow morning to fix it. So I had to run down here.
Hey, you got things to do. We understand that.
I love this. I really do. I enjoy coming on this a lot.
Yeah, we just almost finished the whole.
It's okay. It's all right. It's more for me to come and see everyone and to say Happy New Year than anything
Happy
else.
New Year.
Happy New Year.
Happy
Thank
New
you,
Year.
honey.
Shana Tova.
Happy New Year.
Does everybody know that that Carl?
We're at 28.
28.
Okay.
Can I read? Do you mind if I read?
Yeah, go ahead.
Awesome. Just a little bit. And the Israelites went on and did so, just as the Eternal had commanded Moses and Aaron, so they did. In the middle of the night, the Eternal struck down all the male firstborn in the land of Egypt, from the firstborn of Pharaoh, who sat on the throne, to the firstborn of the captive who was in the dungeon, and all the firstborn of the cattle. And Pharaoh arose in the night with all his courtiers and all the Egyptians, because there was a loud cry in Egypt, for there was no house where there was not someone dead. He summoned Moses and Aaron in the night and said, "Up, depart from among my people, you and the Israelites with you. Go, worship the Eternal as you said. Take also your flocks and your herds as you said, and be gone. And may you bring a blessing upon me also." The Egyptians urged the people on, impatient to have them leave the country, for they said, "We shall all be dead." So the people took their dough before it was leavened, their kneading bowls wrapped in their cloaks upon their shoulders. The Israelites had done Moses' bidding and borrowed from the Egyptians objects of silver and gold and clothing. And the Eternal had disposed the Egyptians favorably toward the people. And they left them and they let them have their request. Thus they stripped the Egyptians. The Israelites journeyed from Ramses to Sukkot, about 600,000 fighting men on foot, aside from non-combatants. Moreover, a mixed multitude went up with them, very much livestock, both flocks and herds. And they baked unleavened cakes of the dough that they had taken out of Egypt, for it was not leavened, once since they had been driven out of Egypt and could not delay, nor had they prepared any provisions for themselves. The length of time that the Israelites lived in Egypt was 430 years. At the end of 430th year, to the very day, all the ranks of the Eternal departed from the land of Egypt. That was for the Eternal a night of vigil, to bring them out of the land of Egypt. The same night is the Eternal's, one of the vigil for all the children of Israel throughout the ages. Whew! Wow. I think I'll pause my reading right there. That was really special.
Okay.
400 years. It's a long time.
Is that the end, or?
No, I think there's more. Do you want to go?
Sure.
Go ahead.
The Eternal One said to Moses and Aaron, "This is the law of the Passover offering. No foreigner shall eat of it, but any householder's purchased male slave may eat of it once he had been circumcised. No bound or hired laborer shall eat of it. It shall be eaten in one house. You shall not take any of the flesh outside the house, nor shall you break a bone of it. The whole community of Israel shall offer it. If a male stranger who dwells with you would offer the Passover to the Eternal, all of his males must be circumcised. Then he shall be admitted to offer it. He shall then be a citizen of the country, but no uncircumcised man may eat of it. There shall be a law of the citizen and for the stranger who dwells among you." And all of the Israelites did so, as the Eternal had commanded Moses and Aaron. So they did. That very day, the Eternal freed the Israelites from the land of Egypt, troop by troop. Do I continue? Or is that the end?
Yeah.
The Eternal One spoke further to Moses, saying, "Consecrate to me every male firstborn, human and beast. The first male issue of the womb among the Israelites is mine." And Moses said to the people, "Remember this day on which you went freed from Egypt, the house of bondage, how the Eternal freed you from it with a mighty hand. No leavened bread shall be eaten. You go free on this day in the mouth of Abib. So when the Eternal has brought you into the land of the Canaanites, the Hittites, the Amorites, the Hivites, and the Jebusites, which was sworn to your fathers to be given you, a land flowing with milk and honey, you shall observe in the month the following practice. 7 days you shall eat unleavened bread, and on the seventh day there shall be a festival of the Eternal. Throughout the 7 days unleavened bread shall be eaten. No leavened bread shall be found with you, and no leavened shall be found in your territory. And you shall explain to your children on that day, it is because of what the Eternal did for me when I went free from Egypt. And this shall serve you as a sign on your hand and a reminder on your forehead, in order that the teaching of the Eternal may be in your mouth. That the mighty hand, the Eternal freed you from Egypt. You shall keep this instruction as its set time from year to year. And when the Eternal has brought you into the land of the Canaanites, as God swore to you and to your fathers, and has given it to you, you shall set apart from the Eternal every first issue of the womb, every male firstling, and your cattle drop shall be the Eternal's. But every firstling ass you shall redeem with a sheep. If you do not redeem it, you must break its neck, and you must redeem every male firstborn among your children. And when it is time to come, a child of yours asks you, saying, what does this mean? You shall reply, it was the mighty hand that the Eternal brought us out of Egypt, the house of bondage, when the Pharaoh stubbornly refused to let us go. The Eternal slew every male firstborn in the land of Egypt, the firstborn of both human and beast. Therefore, I sacrifice to the Eternal every first male issue of the womb, but redeem every male firstborn among my children. And so it shall be a sign upon your hand and as a symbol on your forehead, that with a mighty hand, Eternal freed us from Egypt. Wow, so much here.
And it's all Pesach. It's all Pesach.
The fast of the firstborn.
It's
This is-
everything to do with the Pesach. I mean, this is all Passover. It's all Passover, you
The
know. It's
Pidyon
really-
Hanben, in which when
Yeah.
a male firstborn is born,
That's right. Pidyon Ben. Right, right.
they
right.
get you have to buy it from God.
Yeah.
You
Isn't that
actually have to
interesting?
give you actually have to give tzedakah,
Right.
because you're actually buying the firstborn from God. You
That's
actually pay
interesting.
a certain amount of money and
Right.
give it to charity.
You
So
know,
God
you know
can
what
let
I
you have
find
it.
interesting too is that when he said that every meal, before they went off to Egypt, left Egypt, they all had to be circumcised. So anybody that was even not Jewish that decided to be with this group had to be circumcised. That's pretty impressive if you think about it.
I might skip dinner then. If I-
You might have skipped just.
But
You're so
can you go
funny.
back a little bit, Michael? There's so much here. This is the most
Yeah.
unbelievable Pasha.
Yeah,
This-
and you missed so much before this too. We did a very long passion.
you know, it said there are so many quotes here. You know, it was the mighty hand that the Eternal brought us out from Egypt, the house of bondage. I mean, and this shall serve you as a sign on your hand and as a reminder on your forehead. This is tefillin.
That's
Yep.
tefillin. But you know what's interesting? I'd like to know how tefillin got to be representative of those words. I always was interested in that. I understand that that's what they do is they use tefillin, but where did tefillin? I always like to know where did tefillin come from in representative of those words.
Well, in the box has the prayer, and around
Yeah.
your hand has the prayer. I mean, that's basically what you know. You're
Yeah, I know,
It's
but
very
I'm saying,
specific how they.
how did tefillin? I mean, when did tefillin start? You know what I'm saying? It didn't just like start when he said it. I mean, he said that you're supposed to do this with your head in your hand, but I want to know how the actual how they got to make it as to those
I
straps.
don't know,
Yeah.
but this shall serve you as a sign on your hand, which they and as a
I
reminder
understand.
on your
I know
forehead.
my husband put on tefillin every day. I do know that, but I'm always interested in how things got to be the way they are. I just
Yeah.
something. Yeah, it's just a source thing for me. That's all. Interesting, but everything in this Pasha has to do with Passover, and we discuss it every year, and that's what makes it so powerful, is how powerful, I think, in some ways, Passover, even though I know we do the high holidays and everything, there's something about Passover that makes it even more holy to me sometimes than even Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur.
And also says, throughout the 7 days, unleavened bread
Oh,
shall
yeah, we're not supposed,
shall
yeah, we
be
don't
eaten.
need, yeah, right.
No leavened bread shall be found with you, and no
Right.
leaven shall be found in all your territory.
Oh,
That's
yeah,
why
that's why Orthodox people, they clean out you not only clean out your house but you do it with a little brush and then you have to burn it
feather.
in the
with a
feather.
feather.
It's a long involved thing. I know I did this with my husband. I know a lot about
And
this.
then, and then you sell the chametz.
Yeah, you sell the chametz, and then you can buy it back afterwards.
Yeah.
I
Anyway,
like the fact. I like that you shall keep this institution at its set time from year to year. It's like not optional. Like there are
Right.
things in life that we put off, and there are things like, but here it's like God is saying, at this time every single year throughout the generations, and the fact that you shall tell your child that this is what God did for me
Right.
when I went forth. You're supposed to
you
consider.
know, but they also said there should be a celebration at the end of this, not at the beginning.
Right.
It's like Shmini Atzeres. Well, we do
Yeah.
Shmini at the seventh day, and then the.
Right.
So let me tell you my Shmini Atzeres story. Can I tell you, Michael, my Shmini Atzeres story?
Yes,
Sure,
absolutely.
we're listening with bated breath.
So I was in Shanghai, in China. I was in Shanghai. And Elaine says to me, I think if we get on this train and take this train to that train and then walk this, we can find the famous synagogue of Shanghai.
Uh-huh.
So I said to Elaine, yeah, let's go look. Now I can't read a word of Shanghai, but she figured it out. We can get there. And I take this train and that train, and we get out of this rural area, not rural, but urban area, suburban area. And there it was.
Well, pretty great.
Undergoing construction was this magnificent synagogue. Now, it's all locked. I can't read it. And I looked, and it's locked up, and there was scaffolding all around it. So Elaine says, I thought I saw someone inside. So I bang on the door, and, just for fun. And a guy comes to the door and says to me in Chinese, hello, who are you? And I looked at him and I said to him back to Chinese, Washer Yotairen, Swasai Boston, which means I'm Jewish and I'm from Boston. Well, he was pretty surprised that I spoke Chinese. And we went back and forth a couple times. And I said, I would like to come in. And he opens the door about 10 inches. And he grabs me and he drags me inside. And with his other hand, he grabs Elaine and he pulls us inside. And he shuts this huge door closed, and he locks us in. And he said, go look. And we had incredible. I mean, it was all done inside, hadn't done outside. Incredible, magnificent, incredible. And we had. So
did you take pictures?
Yes, I did. They're around somewhere. And then he says to me, you're Jewish? And I said, yes. And I said, you? In Chinese. We're going back about Chinese. No. I'm the docent, which was, he's the caretaker.
I understand what a docent is. Yeah, right.
He's the caretaker.
Yeah.
And he says to me, do you like the holidays? I couldn't have to look up the word holidays. And I said, yes. He says, Simchas Torah, Chanhao. Simchas Torah is wonderful. Shmini Atzeres, wow. And here is a Chinese man who isn't Jewish, can't speak English. Me, my Hebrew, my Chinese is extremely poor, but enough to communicate. And he's telling me he hates Shmini Atzeres. That was the my Shmini Atzeres story. Even the Chinese hate Shmini Atzeres.
Which is that? I'm not familiar with that holiday. What?
The last day of Passover.
Last day of Passover.
Oh, really?
You know what it is? I think why people don't like it if you celebrate. People are tired of matzah. By the end of the week, you can't wait to eat leavened bread again.
But Gary, don't they do Yizkor and Shmini Atzeres?
Yes, they do. Yeah,
I'm thinking of that's on the high holidays, but I mean, but
But
we
they do
still
it
do it
all
on
the
the last.
holidays. They do it at all.
Yeah,
the
you do it
holidays.
on the
They do it
eighth
all
day
the
of
But
Passover.
I don't think that's what it is. I really think it has to do with it's the ending and people want to eat.
Probably. So
Yeah, I think
back,
it's-
you know,
Yeah.
celebration, and you go back to the Chinese restaurants, you know. But
Yeah, right.
I'll tell you,
About Chinese.
I said to Elaine, you know, I've dragged Elaine all over the world, you know, and I remember her saying, Ed, you have dragged me to more crazy situations in my mind. From Australia.
Hey, you're having a good time. You have a lot to think about when you get older.
You know, I guess the craziest one was Australia,
Okay.
where they had tremendous security. I think Gary knows the story. And wherever I go in the world, I don't go unarmed. And I got to the Orthodox synagogue, which was in Sydney, and you have to understand that the Orthodox synagogue in Sydney is all gold. It's all gilded. It's all gold because you know
Really?
they found gold in
Oh.
in Australia, and all these Jews who were in Australia were there as part of the penal colony. They were all. It was a penal colony.